What's up guys, welcome back to my channel Anime Fiction. I'm back with a new episode of What If Naruto Was the Emperor of the Universe Part 8. And if you did enjoy the video, give this video a like, and if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for my crossover fictions. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 22. The Light was not the only one who was taken aback by Naruto's behavior. When the US administration learned what had happened, they went on to high alert. Many of their funders and men in Gotham had been eliminated in a single day. Gotham saw a lot of business and was a major source of finance for politicians. The crime lords also collaborated with them, providing money and assistance as needed. The core of the administration was dominated by a few parties: Zionists, Saudi royals, the defense industry, finance, and ultimately the old noble lords who ruled in the shadows. Even though the monarchy had gone, the noble families had not vanished, and they had never relinquished their authority. They evolved with the times and ruled from the shadows. The Defense Industrial Association was big company and supplied the army with equipment. They had always encouraged the nation to go to war since their earnings would suffer if they did not. These vultures were unconcerned about human life and only worried about money. They used retired generals to lobby lawfully and influence decisions. As a result, even generals who were still employed by the government would make judgments in their favor in order to please their future boss. When they discovered extraterrestrial technology, they decided to expand their control like the other groups, resulting to the current situation. It was the same on the finance side, and they had a vested interest in everything. The Saudi royals provided money to the table, but they were mostly submissive to Zionists and US political parties. They used to operate differently and wanted to unite the Middle East as a great force, but it went against the interests of the United States. As a result, the leader at the moment was replaced with someone more agreeable. That was the US government's strategy, and it had been implemented all over the world, resulting in the deaths of millions of innocent people and the collapse of order in emerging countries. The Zionists, on the other hand, had a significant influence in the US government. Before the Second World War, they had slowly entered and assumed authority from the shadows. The United States ensured that their country was constructed and aided them by annihilating their foes one by one. They were part of the world's largest organizations and intended to undermine other nations in their region so that they might be taken over. They thought that humanity was created to serve them and that humans were lower on the food chain than animals. Not everyone agreed with their objective, but individuals were never strong enough to overturn a nation's essential decisions. Under the guidance of the Zionist, all of these factions had a commander and worked together as a group to take over the globe. It would have been led by the old nobles, but they had also been infiltrated through marriages, much as the Zionists had done to old empires. They had done it to the Ottoman Empire, producing the majority of sultans from their family. However, the incompetence of the future sultans, as well as the concentration of power in the hands of the army and the harem, led to the system's demise. Returning to the scene, 5 shadows could be seen on separate screens in a covert lab. Amanda, one of these Lita's top operatives, was the only one who was truly present. Amanda Waller was an American government agent known for her vicious ways and cruel methods. She was the director of the government agency ARGUS, yet she still commanded Task Force X, also known as the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller was an NSA operator seconded to the army to aid military intelligence in their operation against the Basilisk terrorist group during the Parademon invasion that led to the formation of the Justice League. However, she was soon recruited into a field team of Project Majestic, a top-secret government research project. The team, dubbed Team 7, was entrusted with devising counter-aggressive metahuman strategies as well as securing associated technologies and expertise. Waller served with distinction, even when several of her companions obtained metahuman abilities as a result of their extraordinary missions. However, during their final assignment, the truth was revealed. The squad was created to help the US government acquire the materials needed to develop a metahuman on par with Superman. The team disintegrated after the newly activated metahumans sunk the island nation of Gamora, which had sponsored Basilisk. Waller ended herself in Malaysia, spending her days playing pinball at a pub, after refusing to report back to the government due to her disgust with the falsehood of her prior mission. She was eventually recruited by a CIA team commanded by Lawrence Duran, who urged her to assist them in fighting a nearby Basilisk operation. Waller agreed, but she was the only one who walked away from the assignment. This tragedy, combined with her Team 7 experience and the Duran family's hatred, drove her to devise a novel plan. Encourage evil people to do awful things so that good people could be safe. Amanda Waller learned of Task Force U and the two specialized task forces that succeeded it after taking control of the metahuman prison Bel Rev. She began profiling the most dangerous inmates. Those she chose were placed through her initiation process, and those who made it at the end were appointed to Task Force X, sometimes known colloquially as the Suicide Squad. Her success and insight enabled her to get access to the system's depth, and the people at the top absolutely disgusted her. She couldn't help but follow the plan because her mind could never reason against the group. Because of Naruto, they had all gathered for the first time in a long time. Based on his activities and the time it took, he would capture their region, USA, in a matter of months, and it wouldn't be long before he took over their other lands. For the first time in a long time, it was an urgent gathering with a definite threat on their minds. There had been no gathering since the arrival of world-destroying heroes and the formation of the Justice League. Except for the Saudi royal and Amanda, all members were immortal and exceedingly elderly. Amanda had been granted immortality for her contributions to the group. The group had no name and was just referred to as the group by those in the know. All members had been genetically transformed over the centuries and will take on new identities each century. They were all extremely wealthy and powerful. They had made significant investments in the field and desired to remain at the top. When compared to the rest of humanity, that aim had been simple, but the knowledge of aliens terrified them. They didn't want to live under someone else's foot, and they didn't want to die. They acted as dark side servants and received the benefits while believing in the hero's capacity to victory. They got a lot out of their investment and were able to gain technology that allowed them to go thousands of years into the future. While the heroes were having fun, the organization was quietly researching and developing super troops to ensure the Galactic Empire's survival. Their vision had grown, and they now had the resources to achieve it. Their interests were similar to Naruto's and the Lights, but they were all opposing forces that would not compromise. Amanda, get rid of him by any means possible, the commander said harshly, dismissing the concept of conversations with the mysterious power. In the group, he was known as Lord Q. Amanda had anticipated the order after seeing the news. This was the most difficult foe she'd encountered in a long time. The heroes were predictable and worked openly within boundaries, making them easy enemies. The Light had been a source of contention for them. They did, however, fear all of these tremendous monsters wandering around without control. They lacked the authority to impose regulations on these creatures. Fear was one of the driving causes behind their harsh behavior toward the heroes. The government was meaningless if it couldn't enforce social rules, which was the problem brought on by the superhumans. They had taken extreme measures to tackle the problem. Human experimentation had been on the decline for some time, but it has recently increased due to the need. They had been conducting experiments on regular and superhumans who had been captured or delivered by the heroes. Their decades of research, combined with 10 years of new research with alien technology, had yielded excellent results. It was only a matter of time before they enslaved all the heroes and used them to build their galactic empire. It was a true benefit that the mighty heroes were so careless in their battles, leaving traces that could be exploited to clone them. Kryptonian DNA, Martian DNA, demonic DNA, Temerian DNA, Amazonian DNA from Wonder Woman, and even Darkseid DNA have been collected by the organization. They were combining DNA from all of the Earth's powerful creatures to construct the ultimate structure for themselves and a lower version for their army. They had already used the prototype and gained enormous power before the completion. However, it was still below the requisite threshold to compete with Superman and other such beings. The Suicide Squad was their primary prototype because it was the most successful with these genetic changes because these psychotic criminals had a strong mind and physique. But, in exchange for their strength, they had all been genetically imprinted into servitude to the gang. They couldn't bear the thought of betrayal, which was exactly what they meant to use on humanity and their future slaves. Is it viable to show our hand so soon? It will attract the attention of the heroes and our other enemies, the finance master, also known as Mr. F, inquired, believing that the leader was looking down on the other threats. Mr. F, we will only be postponing the inevitable. It took him a day to take Gotham. This country could be taken by the end of the month. We can't postpone his annihilation. All agreed. Lord Q reacted calmly to his question. The finance minister appears to be accustomed to playing the long game. It was fine to be patient, yet there were times when speed was required. Agreed. Amanda began to move with the group's approval. Normally, she would not have accepted, but after the change, she felt only pleasure in completing her chores. She had finally found a suitable target for her new team. The group did not even consider the possibility of failure if Naruto's comments were true. And the same was true for Amanda. She didn't care who Naruto was. She was going to destroy him. While someone planned to kill him, Naruto used Fuinjutsu seals on Centurion, but he made them extremely powerful to accommodate the target's power level. Naruto also transformed his look because he didn't want others to find him or cause problems for his group. After completing the seal, Naruto left Centurion to train his powers in a more efficient method, as the man was not a genius. Naruto did not imprison him and instead let him to depart with his new form to the outside world anytime he pleased, just like the rest of the team. After that, Naruto dispatched a wind clone to the Justice League. He could tell the members had assembled to talk about Centurion or something else. Since the Centurion's presence had been established, the majority of the members had assembled on the watchtower for the meeting. The squad needed to catch him and also have a discussion about their mission. The world was changing, and they felt as if they were falling behind. Wonder Woman had received a warning from above, not just a gut sense. They faced the prospect of death or enslavement. Athena had issued a warning, and Diana couldn't ignore words from such a powerful source. The group's only visible targets with the ability were Emperor and the Light. Moon Maiden had also attended the conference to express her thoughts because she was related to Centurion and even had the job of leading the universe. She agreed with Superman and Flash that he would try to hurt them, thus she backed Naruto in the debate. The others were skeptical of Naruto and refused to rule him out as the cause of their doom. Naruto knocked on their window after the meeting had lasted 30 minutes. He was like a ghost to their senses, and his nonchalant grace caused them to look about for a second to be sure they weren't hallucinating. "Hello friends, please allow me entrance so that we can talk." Naruto's wind clone had his armored appearance, and no one could tell the difference. His remarks made Flash and Superman smile. Clark looked around at his crew, and they all agreed. Naruto entered the watchtower for the first time and was impressed by it. But that wasn't the only thing that stood out. The folks in attendance were genuinely amazing. Superman, Batman, Green Lantern, Hal Jordan, Flash, Barry Allen, Hawkgirl, Moon Maiden, Shazam, Martian Manhunter, Green Arrow, Powerhouse, Naomi, and Wonder Woman are among the characters included. Troya, Donna Troy, Black Canary, Black Lightning, Red Tornado, Steel, Superwoman, Aquaman, Aquawoman, Mera, Swamp Thing, Firestorm, Aztec, Uno, Dr. Fate, Kent Nelson, and the remaining 2 Green Lanterns were all gone. The Justice League was without a doubt the most powerful force on the Earth, and if they didn't allow their fears and concerns dominate them, they could easily turn it into a utopia. Even with all eyes on him, Naruto was unconcerned. He trusted them to act civilly, and even if they didn't, he didn't have to worry because it was just a wind clone operated remotely. "I hope it's not a bad time," Naruto replied, looking around and speaking in a casual pleasant tone. It demonstrated that he was not an adversary and did not fear them. "No, we were just finishing up, but we weren't expecting to see you so soon. Is there something wrong?" Clark treated him similarly and escorted him to a seat. They were all inquisitive about him and his current presence. "There is definitely something wrong with your group, Superman, but first some good news. You don't have to worry about the Centurion because he has been taken care of." "Can you elaborate on the meaning of that sentence?" Batman approached the front and stood alongside Superman, looking straight at Naruto. "It's nice to meet you, Batman. I really like you people and appreciate what you've done for the world. It's just unfortunate that reality is harsh and people don't change just because they're shown the error of their ways. You were very unfortunate to be stuck with an evil government." "Excuse me, I almost went off topic. I have placed him in my service so that he can pay for his crimes, just like I have done with the rest of the offenders. I merely keep some of them under my direct supervision because of their potential, and all of you might be above them if you so choose. Laura, I hope your concerns have been alleviated, and please accept my apologies for not being able to visit," Naruto said as he regarded Bruce before looking at the others and eventually focusing on Laura, who stepped towards him. Laura was surprised when he pointed her out of the group, and she was overjoyed when she heard his remarks. Her main concern had been alleviated, and she could now concentrate on reconstructing her life. She trusted Naruto because he was like the golden sun to her eyes, her soul-seeing eyes. "Thank you so much. I would love to have your company." Laura almost cried at his tenderness, and Naruto rose up to embrace her close, even though there was armor between them. "What is the bad news?" Diana inquired, feeling awkward about ruining Laura's emotional situation. Naruto slapped Laura on the back and sat by his side before turning to face the others. "What are your thoughts on the world?" Naruto responded with a question, and everyone had a different answer, but most of them couldn't connect it to the unpleasant news. The group's smartest members, on the other hand, were quick to understand. "Good. I like smart people, and I wish you wouldn't put off the inevitable. Regardless, I'll pass on my warning to you all since I don't want you to die. The world is changing, and it is more powerful than you realize. I know everything there is to know about mankind, and it is evolving, being changed directly by someone else to become more powerful. That outcome is acceptable to me, but they are conducting unethical experiments and making the subjects obedient to them. There is not just one group. There are several, and they are all growing. They are quietly growing stronger and learning from their failures. It won't be long before the transformation crushes your group. I only want you to understand this and prepare for a new future. You must adjust quickly before the world takes you away. Or, you can always grab my hand and we can walk a grand path." Naruto advised them based on Centurion's data and his own life force reading of the planet, in which he detected a massive amount of changing life energy from the hidden forces. Naruto vanished from the scene, leaving only a tremendous gust of wind that traveled around the room, before any of them could ask for additional information. They heard his voice as it hit Zatanna from the wind. "You are brave, Zatanna. However, you could be killed by a simple attack if you are not prepared. Why don't you solve that problem already? Or do you really want to die?" Naruto focused only on meditation after completing his duty for the day, leaving the heroes to absorb and examine his teachings. He had carried his original body to the planet's depths, near the core, where he had created a training area for his personal use, a step taken after considering the planet's feeling and the safety that the core region afforded him. Naruto eventually observed his current level after focusing on his power and fully utilizing the Sage mode. The clone never had all of his chakra, therefore the Sage mode and the new enhancement were not at full potential. His abilities had grown considerably, but he needed to improve his chakra control or he would be limited to his present form, as controlling chakra at such a nano size was very exhausting and nearly impossible during fight. His thoughts strayed to the Rinnegan, which would give him easy access to such power, but he suppressed his desire since Naruto didn't want to force Konan into such a position and he would wait as promised, as well as see if he could find another solution to the matter. Learning about programming language, Naruto associated it with Fuinjutsu seals and theorized that he could create a structure within his body that would aid in his goal. Rather than consciously operating the technique, Naruto could create a system that would automatically distribute the chakra to the relevant positions based on his programming. Naruto believed it was the proper approach, so he let his clone handle that matter while he dealt with something more essential, deciding to face the Kyuubi and eventually make him submit, the ascendance being more than enough to overwhelm the apocalyptic beast. Naruto felt certain of his triumph because he knew the Kyuubi's stats were no longer comparable. Without further ado, Naruto landed in his soul land, where the Kyuubi had been sealed. It was a lovely place, full of majesty. There was greenery everywhere, magnificent waterfalls, lovely lakes, and massive mountains, and one could even see the moon in the sky. The Kyuubi was enclosed behind a massive barrier that separated him from Naruto's side. "I didn't expect you to arrive so quickly. Perhaps I overestimated your intelligence," Kurama grumbled as he laid on the ground, opening one of his massive eyes to find Naruto standing outside his cage. "I didn't think we'd meet so soon, but life is unpredictable. So, this time, I'm here to fight for real." Naruto smirked as he walked through the bars. He had his armor in the Soul Land, but it didn't provide the same benefits as it did in the normal world. In the Soul Land, it was just him and the enormous angry fox. With Naruto's arrogant entrance, Kurama blazed up as a gigantic chakra wave crashed towards Naruto, making him look like a mountain while Naruto was barely the size of his pupil. Kurama stood 300 meters tall, with tails another 300 meters long. His look was genuinely terrifying for the faint of heart, and it was a first for Naruto as well. Naruto stood firm against the chakra surge and stared up at Kurama. "We will be the perfect partners, so let it become a reality," Naruto said with a broad smile on his face, holding his massive double combat axe, which was as big as Naruto's torso without the handle. A huge quantity of wind energy accumulated around the axe, and Naruto swung it at full might, with the urge to harm his rival. This was his new ability, and it was expected to do severe damage on the creature. However, reality was frequently disappointing, and aspirations were frequently dashed. The gigantic wind blade didn't even get close to touching Kurama because a crimson barrier, near to the skin and constructed of hexagonal structural style, readily weathered the hit and spread it away. "Did you think that was enough?" Kurama asked, flashing his ferocious fangs. "Maggot, I am superior than you. I am superior to everyone. What you are capable of, I am capable of exceeding." Naruto was nearly smothered by blood-crimson chakra hands after making that vow. Naruto fled away from the deluge using his teleportation, Hiraishin, ability, which didn't require any physical marking with Sage Mode and allowed him to travel freely to any location within his range of senses, and then retaliated with a greater technique. Rasengan Giant Bomb Rasengan was an attack in which chakra formed a ball on his hand from chakra strings that circled in different directions, destroying the foe with the power of intensive movement and could easily crave through mountains if the user had enough chakra to supply it. Naruto created it on the cellular stage utilizing his new style and made it unusually large, implying that he poured a large quantity of chakra into the attack, which was larger than a 3-story house. The projectile smashed through the red hands and smashed into the red barrier, sparking a fierce battle between the two forces before Kurama swung his tail through the attack and destroyed it. The red beam of frightening force tore through the terrain like paper, easily reaching the core of the globe and breaking to the other side, and nearly destroying Naruto. Nothing could be faster than nature, and Naruto was tied to it, therefore he only lived because of his automatic teleportation ability. Naruto finally grasped what had happened when he saw the impact. "Ha ha ha ha. I love you so much," Naruto exclaimed, laughing with delight. He wanted all of Naruto's might, majesty, and wisdom. Kurama had adapted to Naruto's understanding, and his increased level of strength was the result of applying the same principle as Naruto. The cellular stage Naruto in Sage Mode was half the size of Kurama, just in terms of energy, and Kurama possessed the energy of a small planet, half the size of Earth. Naruto's numbers were weaker, and his only edge was teleportation, which he used to evade strikes. But he wasn't concerned. In fact, he was pleased with such a performance because it demonstrated that Kurama was incredibly intelligent and knew how to adjust. Kurama was taken aback by Naruto's joy, as he had expected to see dread and amazement. "You are completely insane, Naruto. How will you commemorate this occasion? I am now an insurmountable adversity for you. Do you not understand? Or, like the rest of your kind, are you lost in delusion?" Kurama yelled angrily as his tails moved in the air, indicating his displeasure. "How could I not? Because you are my future companion, I always want you to get stronger. This is a fact. I believe we will collaborate. I have no fear of anyone, and if I had to fight you all the time, I will. You will ultimately wear out," Naruto said truthfully because there was no point in lying to Kurama, who could tell when someone was lying. "You are just impossible." Kurama took a deep breath and started his onslaught, his tails extending towards Naruto with astonishing speed from all sides. Kurama's speed had increased from roughly lightning speed to faster than light, and his physical strength had surpassed planet level. Naruto teleported to the sky and did not withdraw, content to battle and improve his skills, if not win, against Kurama. Once in the sky, Naruto formed a barrier to stop Kurama's strike rather than dodging it. Knowing Naruto would teleport, Kurama had been charging a Biju bomb while hitting with the tails, and had unleashed it moment Naruto reappeared. Even though it was the Soul Land, Naruto had programmed it to emulate what would happen in reality so that he could understand the impact of his moves because he couldn't go around testing his powers in the real world. The Biju laser that Kurama had fired at the start almost brought the planet down, but it didn't touch the core. However, there was an impact from the hole that went from the surface to the other side. earthquakes, volcano eruptions, and other natural disasters were occurring as a result of the Biju bomb. It crashed with Naruto's golden hexagonal barrier in a moment, which Naruto had built with many levels unlike Kurama, with 10 layers stacked on top of each other with the barrier constantly moving to brush off the strikes. The world-ending move was more powerful than the Biju laser, and it sliced through the first 5 levels in a second, barely slowing down on the 6th. With his efforts, Naruto was able to slow it down and put more distance between them while it erupted and expanded in size to swallow him whole, growing from the size of a hill to the size of a whole mountain range or a small town. The explosion sent shockwaves across the world along with energy waves that displaced the clouds and destroyed everything within a country's range while shaking the world. Naruto was almost devoured, and Kurama appeared to be unleashing a stronger version, so he used one of his ultimate moves. The time has come for me to be born, and I am the master of all. Naruto expressed his desire and ambition. Light's anti-life judgment. At first glance, it appears to be a ring of light that encircles the earth. In reality, it was an aggregation of 100,000 beams of light cast over the satellite orbit and with a size close to, if not equal to, that of North America. Each of these lines carried extreme damage values comparable to, at the very least, a city eraser. The band of light was made up of all senjutsu energy. Originally, the move was much weaker, only strong enough to demolish a huge city or a small country, but following the recent strength boost, it had undergone a massive transformation, allowing it to reach a new level. The many light beams collided with the Biju bomb, destroying what was left after Naruto's struggle with it. 50% of the beams were neutralized by the attack, while the remainder attacked Kurama, who fired a charged Biju laser that hit the light beams. The entire sky was covered in explosions and had turned a fiery red from the burning atmosphere, so the charged beam nullified Naruto's strike and traveled off the planet, hitting and entering the moon. As he maneuvered the beam to grab Naruto, Kurama cleaved the moon in half, while Naruto used his earth manipulation to drag the fragmented pieces of the moon towards Kurama. The augmented moon fragments showered down on the globe, and the entire moon was drawn into Kurama in nanoseconds. The planet was destroyed with the initial bombardment because the rocks were enhanced by senjutsu and did not lose mass. Kurama was not damaged by the bombardment because he blocked them with his barrier and began running towards Naruto while the planet exploded. He launched little charged shots and smashed the huge fragments before launching controlled rapid fire beams towards Naruto, as there was no other way to capture Naruto as he continued to teleport. Naruto, on the other hand, decided to use another of his ultimate moves that focused on something other than physical destruction, and it used his mastery of yin style, genjutsu. It had been very strong from the start, but after learning from the New World, it had been enhanced. The criminals had experiences with Zatanna, Martian Manhunter, and other beings that utilized mental powers, and that experience from his victims gave him a boost. Experience the entire world's evil, my friend. With those ambitious words, the world around Kurama changed, and he was surrounded by darkness that tried to imprint hell on his brain by showing him unseeable darkness, ugliness that couldn't be acknowledged, and all the crimes of the people in the world that make them want to flee from it all. Those trapped with the darkness would eat themselves to death from pain and hatred, and they would be swallowed by it like the painted space. But for the time being, it performed an excellent job and began interacting with Kurama's darkness, devouring him and making it difficult for him to leave the evil domain that had engulfed him. Naruto could sense his anguish, sorrow, and wrath. It was a shady maneuver, but it was one that could guarantee success. During the conflict, he couldn't show mercy. Naruto. Kurama yelled in despair and wrath as he burst out of the black zone with an explosion of energy that spread about him, pushing away the repulsive shadows. That was an insane stare. Kurama had allowed his wrath to shield his heart from the anguish, and he began fighting like a savage beast. The wild beast collided with the reconstructed moon, shattering it from the enormous impact, and it began to generate chakra bombs that just drifted in space. Even when enraged, Kurama acted tactically, despite his vision was clouded by the wrath. Naruto found it easier to avoid the wild beast by concentrating on his true bloodline talent, adamantine chains. The golden chains appeared from portals, capturing Kurama's limbs and connecting them to Naruto's hand. These chains were exceedingly powerful, and they were further reinforced by Naruto's abilities. The victim's situation was exacerbated by the chain's propensity to inhibit energy. The suppression weakened Kurama by interfering with his chakra control. Naruto was already struggling at the cellular level, and he was small in comparison to Kurama, who was massive in both physical and chakra size.
Kurama continued to shout and push against the restraints, nearly breaking them. However, Naruto did not wait for him to be free and took advantage of the opportunity to injure him.
Naruto created a giant lance out of all the elements by focusing energy above his hand. He gathered all of the elements' force and made them work together, rather than against each other, to create a powerful impact. Naruto moved his finger towards Kurama. The enormous lance began spinning and soared from a great distance, rising in speed and size as it went.
It slammed into Kurama, who fought back against the chain and the onslaught. The lance pierced Kurama and dragged him towards the remade ground, where they collided with the ice land. Kurama's massive form smashed through the icy mountains and smashed into the frozen lake, displacing the water. The elemental lance plunged him down into the frigid depths, while Naruto surfaced above the water, where snow fell on top of his skin's thick chakra barrier. "Have you regained your mind, friend? Or do you need more?" Naruto questioned freely as he stood atop the water and gazed down at his best friend, who was still being attacked by the spinning lance.
Naruto had used that one moment of weakness to break his chakra control and pin him down. Regardless, he had recovered his mental faculties after being injured.
His body was constantly healing yet was being wounded, and he was having difficulty breaking the lance with his tails.
"I shouldn't have allowed my anger govern me," Kurama lamented, as it was also one of the reasons for the Biju's downfall and defeat against Madara. He should have battled like Naruto and learned from his mistakes. "You have won the battle, Naruto. Do whatever you want," Kurama whispered, closing his eyes. Naruto was annoyed by his weak comments and closed the gap between them. He cancelled his attack by standing on his nose. Unlike Kurama, Naruto had virtually depleted his energy reserves due to his usage of large attacks with little control. He only had 20% of his reserves left after using 50% with the lance.
"I don't like such a tone from you or any of my friends. I have tried to communicate my intentions countless times, so why can't you understand my desire? Give me a chance, and I will show you a bright world. Look into my heart, do you see any lie? I truly care for you. We have been together since my birth. You were the third person I laid my eyes on. We are tied on a spiritual level."
There was no deception. Naruto had long forgiven Kurama and had formed a friendship with him through their daily banter. Just though Kurama said harsh and selfish things didn't mean the beast hadn't selflessly saved him numerous times. He was aware that Kurama felt the same way about him, but he was afraid to properly express those feelings because he had been betrayed too many times. Kurama saw Asura, his father's son, when he glanced into those blue eyes. He also glimpsed the sage within Naruto. The blue eyes appeared to vary and exhibit a purple sign, and even the energy appeared to fluctuate.
"I'll give you a chance, Naruto, and I apologize for everything I've done," Kurama said, his emotions merging with Naruto's and amplifying. It was something he had felt from his father and Asura, and it made him cry as he recalled the wonderful and painful times.
"Why are you crying, big bad fox?" "You're crying," Kurama said, covering his eyes with the tails and pushing Naruto aside, who was also crying tears of joy and acceptance.
"My name is Kurama." After the struggle, the Soul Land returned to tranquility, while the two sat on an icy mountain. Naruto had not postponed his decision and had opened the cage, allowing Kurama to exit his body. Kurama, on the other hand, honored his pledge and demonstrated his trustworthiness. The unrestricted connection between them not only strengthened their bond, but also brought about a fundamental transformation within them. Naruto and Kurama merged entirely as their energies and souls merged.
They didn't, however, focus on the power and prospects at first. The two sat together, Naruto on top of Kurama's head, talking about each other. They exchanged their thoughts on one another, and Naruto eventually learned the complete tale of Kurama's life and his relationship with the sage. The sage was a hybrid entity, not a human. His race was known as Otsutsuki, and it was a small but incredibly powerful species. It was nature's method of restoring balance. Kurama had never met any Otsutsuki, but he had seen photographs of the Queen Mother who had formerly governed Naruto's world. Itsuki Kagaya the sage spoke fondly of his mother and expressed sadness. Kagaya was a good mother and ruler, but she was also a frail woman. She carried terror in her heart and let it govern her thinking, leading to insanity. The sage and his brother ended up fighting his mother, who had turned into a monster after her mind shattered. Apart from their mother, both brothers were half human and half alien, and they were the most powerful animals on the planet. They existed at a time when humans lacked chakra.
After the conflict, the sage began traveling the world and experiencing life for the first time. He was neither a warrior nor a king, and his judgments and actions reflected this. The sage decided to bestow chakra on humanity. It was something he was born with, and he could pass it on to others. He altered humanity's genetic structure and provided them with the chakra system, which enabled the creation of chakra.
However, he only gave it to his followers, and through marriages, it spread all across the world. He did it in order to link humanity on a spiritual level. That was the primary rationale behind the choice. Chakra enabled all users to communicate with and understand one another on a level beyond words. It was the bond that Naruto and Kurama had. This system produced compassion and caring while rejecting hatred and despair. It was the cure to humanity's selfishness and the solution to Kaguya's endless dream ability.
However, nothing was ever ideal, and everything came crashing down. And it was done by none other than the sage's son. Indra and Asura were the sage's two sons. Indra was the brilliant and cold fighter, while Asura was the sweet companion. Both children were exceptional in his opinion, and they performed admirably. However, things changed when the sage decided that one of them would succeed him as the world's leader. The sage became immortal after obtaining the Jubi, but this also resulted in his poisoning. To alleviate that problem, he discovered a treatment from another solar system, which offered him another increase in power. His strength had doubled, which did not make him happy, but rather concerned him. Even after removing the Jubi from his body and dividing it into 9 beings, he was still too powerful for the world. His strength, together with the strength of the 9 creatures, his brother, and his kids, sent a strong signal to foes from all across the universe.
The Otsutsuki fed on a planet's life force, and they preferred worlds with a high level of power. They took not only from the planet, but also from the people. They obtained all of their powers and knowledge by slaughtering every living person on the globe. It gave them the ultimate boost, transforming them into one of the most powerful species in the universe. Because the sage did not believe the planet was ready to make such adversaries, he decided to hand over his abilities to his sons. He chose Asura as the leader due to his friendliness, while denying Indra his birthright as the eldest brother due to his cold and harsh character. Kurama adored the sage, but he thought it was the worst decision he'd ever made. Kurama wished he had decided to live and govern the world as their leader rather than die as a result of some threat. And, just as Kurama had said, it happened. Indra launched a battle against Asura, dividing the world into factions and resulting in the current state of the ninja world. Kurama hoped the sage had been a warrior and a leader so that he might have avoided making such a mistake. He saw Asura and Indra in Naruto. Naruto was the synthesis of both of those people, canceling out both of their flaws. Kurama admired Naruto's abilities and disposition and wished he had thought in this manner. It would have also helped him avoid countless missteps. Indra had betrayed the Biju by almost enslaving them, but Asura aided them and they sided with him. They remained as humanity's quiet guardians, but knowledge of them was erased during the wars, and the new generation only regarded them as monsters. It resulted in the human side attempting to track them down, and the Biju retreated even more from mankind, growing hatred and scorn for the creatures who had abandoned their father's ways. Kurama had thought of numerous things he could have done as the leader of the Biju to help them avoid the sad end as he watched Naruto grow up in their chats. Naruto, unlike him and the sage's kids, was properly trained from birth.
It was the appropriate decision because Kurama intended to use Naruto as his weapon of revenge. Unfortunately, Konoha escaped such a fate and was blessed by history's most powerful leader. Kurama had high aspirations for him and would occasionally assist him. When Naruto was about to be defeated by the One Tail, Kurama intervened and guided him to victory. Kurama had allowed Naruto to win the impossible battle when he and Jiraiya were besieged by the 4 and 5 tails.
Their link was not new, it had existed since the first time they saw one another.
Naruto had been wary of him and angry with him at first. But, over time, he matured and forgave Kurama because he saw his side of the story and how much he needed Kurama. He would talk to Kurama and express his deepest thoughts with him since that day. Kurama was his secret partner and friend who would never reveal his secrets. Naruto completely accepted Kurama as a buddy when he protected him from Shukaku, One Tail.
Kurama blushed as he remembered those memories fondly, and his tails moved around joyously, while Naruto was pleased that Kurama thought so highly of him. Both of them had no idea they had such regard for each other, but Kurama still believed Naruto was a little insane. Naruto whispered as he slept on Kurama's head, "I'm not crazy." He'd heard those comments from his opponents far too often, but he was irritated when close friends called him that. He simply didn't respond much to those things, but he was also human, and he felt similar feelings. Haha, I was just joking. I know everything is planned, and I like that about you. Making plans on the fly is a wonderful gift. I wish I could do that. Naruto grinned gleefully at those words and grew to the size of Kurama to hug him. Thank you. You can learn from experiencing various situations and attempting to simulate everything in advance. Kurama appreciated the gesture because it had been a long time since he had received a hug. Perhaps only time will tell. So, what are your plans now? Both giants were sitting next to each other, viewing the aurora. Naruto didn't keep his plan from Kurama and presented it openly because he needed someone to disagree with him. According to my expectations, the forces should begin moving to capture or erase me. However, they have no idea about me and will have a difficult time planning anything. Despite this, I do not intend to risk my life. Instead, I intend to liberate a few cities in the United States before taking out the other countries while the forces are completely focused on the United States.
While the clones deal with that, I will practice my new abilities for a month before moving against the strong parties, and my teams of scientists should have worked out something about higher stage genetic manipulation during that time. Naruto explained the plan in detail and shared his reasoning.
Naruto, as Kurama stated, explored many topics that most people would not consider. Naruto escaped the danger and continued to battle evil directly by eliminating the villains. But that wasn't the end of it. He was repairing the private sector, including businesses, schools, hospitals, and the media. Most folks did not have the time or interest to double-check their information. Furthermore, it was not a simple task. What information was reliable and which was not? That was sometimes simple, and sometimes extremely difficult. The media had a significant role in informing people about important issues in the world around them. However, the media had become the ruler's mouthpiece, misleading viewers. It propagated propaganda as well as hatred. Not only were news networks involved, but also social media and even fake stories. Naruto also intended to handle that aspect of the situation. He intended to use it to his advantage. Naruto's clone in the form of George had happened upon two women who were being yelled at by a banshee. It was a short woman with blue hair and a chubby figure. Her voice, like her appearance, did her no favors. Those three women were causing a commotion inside a cafe. That big lady was their employer, and they were all from the comic book industry. The woman appeared to despise what they had sketched and harshly scolded them. Naruto approached them, picking up the dropped papers as he believed the lady was making crazy claims. The girls had created an action comic about heroes that looked artistically pleasing except for the exceedingly idiotic content. The girls drew it, while the fat lady wrote it, and she used the comic to convey her woke message about how white people were the horrors of society, while the rest of the people were angels. The female hero in the comic disparages men as if they were bugs and encourages women to cheat on their partners. It was a comic with no heroes, just a rubbish message thrown at the reader. The overweight lady was enraged because the artists had made some of the characters incredibly attractive. She didn't want the main character to be fit and attractive because it set unrealistic expectations for others.
Naruto silenced her by telling him to get his fat ass out of the cafe. The double standards were obvious. She didn't want others to look down on her, but she did so openly. Naruto was good with words, and he broke her down so slowly that she passed out. Throwing the trash out of his sight, Naruto gave the females a new position in the comic industry, where they would rule.
He made them start drawing comics about the Emperor of Mankind's will. He wrote the script, and they were only going to draw it. He paid for everything and advertised it through his contacts. The audience was eager to purchase such a thing because they were fascinated by him. Comics were a good medium, and they had long been used to sell politics, particularly during wartime. However, the quality had deteriorated over time, and the majority of the output was garbage. That was the state of Western comic books, not Eastern comic books. Those were flying off the shelves. The downfall in the comic industry was caused by the message taking precedence over the storytelling. The writers were injecting their political ideas into the plot, which was destroying the characters. They were creating one-dimensional characters whose only personality was gay, trans, or whatever. Nobody cared. Those folks were a minority, and they rarely read comics. As a result, this action marginalized the true customers, straight males. Furthermore, the message was incorrect. It encouraged females to become whores. It drove males to become frail. It promoted false body positivity, claiming that being overweight was beneficial, although it was one of the leading causes of disease and premature mortality. Those overweight ladies then discriminated against the fat guys, demonstrating their duplicity and desire to change the norm and make attractive people like them.
Such heinous movements had raised childhood and adult obesity rates, and were progressively undermining society itself. It also conveyed a warning about global warming. That was a good message, however the subject was handled in an immature manner, with no real remedy provided. The heroes in the comics were killing a storekeeper because there were plastic bags from their store in the ocean.
To keep people separated, the media promoted childishness, selfishness, and a victimhood narrative.
It was throwing all of the blame on one side of society and pushing the system's preferred narrative.
The governing system never permitted anything they didn't like and always pushed what they desired. When they saw somebody they didn't like, they made them disappear. But that wasn't the end of it. The system even manipulated those leaders' messages to their advantage. When they wanted, they could turn former heroes into villains or heroes molded by their will. This was true for most nations around the world, particularly the United States. As a result, Naruto took efforts to address the problem and began expanding his influence over media, social media, and entertainment. Aside from entertaining, Naruto planned to conduct morning interviews with Jonah using new bodies each day. He would use that interview to discuss many issues that would assist people understand his message and identify answers in their life.
For example, there was a labor shortage. He wanted to assist others understand how to be self-sufficient and build their own businesses.
Naruto meant to lead them and assist them in exploring all alternatives. Even the option of relocating their family to a developing country where their assets would be more valuable and they could live on a very little income and establish a business. Developing countries were much cheaper to live in, and the people there were kinder to individuals from developed countries. It wasn't the Stone Age, when such extensive journeys would have been inconceivable. And, unless you did something stupid like enter a known criminal area, most developing countries were extremely safe. Even in the United States, something like that would get you killed. Naruto didn't want to make businessmen make judgments that went against their core convictions.
Returning production to developed nations was against the majority of their interests, and even against the citizens' interests, because the cost of the products would rise. However, he made certain that the businessmen paid a living salary because every little task was necessary. Even the delivery guy was required because people would notice if that service stopped, even though it wasn't a difficult job.
Did it make a difference how difficult the work was? Yes, and it made a difference what the job included. However, this does not imply that a job should supply less than what a typical individual requires to live in the current world. Because life was more than just work, it was inequitable when someone was obliged to work many jobs to exist. Because of the restricted number of available seats, not everyone could advance beyond the lower-level positions. If everyone is the manager, who will provide the food? Naruto covered everyone from lawmakers to businesspeople to ordinary citizens. He did not ignore the movements, but tried to separate them and adapt their message to what he desired. What he thought was the correct narrative.
Naruto was going to focus on education and remove the bullshit that the establishment was attempting to push about victimhood and other such things.
He would make certain that mentally sick persons who couldn't accept their gender and wanted to be rainbows were not allowed near children.
He would make sure that mentally ill persons who couldn't accept their gender and wanted to be rainbows weren't allowed to be around youngsters and spread their insanity. He was going to solve all of their mental problems and other mental instabilities. He desired that humanity have a strong will and mentality. He didn't mind unleashing his positive energy for a few hours every day to aid people. On the other hand, the system had permitted creeps to pose as women and rape real women, or to openly watch naked women and children in the women's and children's locker rooms, and even to take their place in sports and other activities. The message was being rammed down the children's throats, confounding them and making them weak and mad. There was no choice, and the minority was reigning over the vast bulk of the population. Accepting such mental instability as a good thing was asking for civilization to fail, and society was steadily dissolving while speeding towards crazy.
In a world where this was acceptable, pedo material was permitted to air and was not blocked. It indicated where the world was heading, and it was an immoral destiny that was a haven for demons. Kurama was impressed by all he heard. He couldn't think of anything to add because Naruto seemed to cover everything. I don't have much else to say. However, we may promote my father's story to improve your image. It would demonstrate how a single indestructible and moral leader could rightly control the world. My father remains the best real-life example. Aside from that, you should have that spirit guy release the magician before things get out of hand. Because powerful beings can reclaim control, you will be in jeopardy once he regains some level of strength. Finally, I'd want to share with you a concept that I've had for quite some time. I'd like you to combine the chakra of other Biju with my body. I should be able to modify my structure to resemble the Jubi and hence become stronger without raising my energy levels. Even with our equal energy levels, the Jubi is on a higher stage. Only the recent technique allowed me to surpass that beast. What do you think? Partner. Kurama remained silent while he digested the material offered and expressed his opinion. He had no interest in leadership and had never given it much thought. He did, however, ponder about counsel he could provide Naruto at certain periods in their lives. Naruto was taken aback when he learned about the magician. It was a new experience for him, and he ordered Valkis to release Zatara before the man gained cognizant and took them down. Zatara was a powerful magician on par with or better than Zatanna. Aside from that, he was intrigued by Kurama's idea. He had been gathering Biju chakra in order to acquire the various lineages and strengthen them. He had tried to grow them like Kurama had, but without consciousness, the pieces remained the same size.
He had no objections to Kurama's suggestion because he was equally curious about what would happen.
Of course, I'll do anything for you, partner. Naruto laughed as he hugged and kissed Kurama on the cheek before focusing on the pieces he had collected and bringing them all towards Kurama.
Kurama reached out his tails and absorbed the small particles of chakra into his being. The method had been refined by observing how his chakra interacted with Naruto's, and the last fusion had provided him with the final puzzle piece.
The procedure was simple and quick. Kurama absorbed the parts, and his body shimmered, turning whitish in color, while a 10th tail sprouted from him.
That wasn't the only difference. Kurama's eyes had also changed. It was a Mangekyo Sharingan, and Kurama could tell he needed more components before the process was complete because the eyes were still evolving. The transformation came from the ground up, as Kurama now had access to all elements and found it natural to alter nature. His energy level hadn't increased much, but after combining with Naruto, it wasn't far from reaching planet scale, even without Sage Mode.
Kurama's energy level would be higher than that of planet Earth in Sage Mode. Naruto plus Kurama was roughly 60%, therefore Sage Mode would be 120%.
That was only the level of their chakras. With their cellular method and the Sage Mode, Naruto and Kurama would already be above planet level, which would be compounded by 10, putting them at a giant planet level.
The new Kurama modification did not make them stronger, but it did change their quality and allow them to progress to the next stage because their chakra control and affinity for all natures reached a greater level. It also meant that instead of equipping Pain's Rinnegan, Naruto could simply unlock his own by removing the DNA from the eye. That should be plenty to aid the process. He chose to wait and earn it. He wasn't in a hurry to boost his abilities indefinitely. He needed time to establish his new levels of power. He had developed so quickly that he might wind up harming humanity rather than helping it. You are the coolest fox I have ever seen. Naruto made a remark when Kurama changed the color scheme to white with gold and crimson accents. There were floating golden rings with runes inscribed on them around the tails, and red and gold metallic gauntlets on the limbs. He was simply magnificent. To be continued.
That's it for this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. I hope you did enjoy this part of the story, and if you did, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for helping support, and have a great day.